Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2 Episode 11 was Flames, Fire, Heat. Visually, this was easily the best episode of Season 4 in its entirety, and is at the very least one of the best looking episodes in the entire series. The source material was elevated tremendously. Mappa seriously did the damn thing when it came to this one, to the point where I am now more than willing to accept the steaming pile of dung that was Episode 9. This was more than worth it and a necessary sacrifice for the sake of returning the hype to this series. Quite honestly, since Eren's departure from the center of the stage, Attack on Titan has been going out sad. It really has not been blowing up on social media like it always had previously, and I've been having anime-only friends of mine question if the latest episodes are even worth watching at this point. Prior to this episode, it was giving final season of Game of Thrones vibes. Now, the very first bit of this episode was in fact comprised of especially dramatic scenes previously seen by way of the one before, but those first 40 seconds or so served mostly as a reminder of the predicament our characters are presently in, which would be followed by a sequence of emotional shots between Connie and Armin and the remains of their childhood friends that they'd previously brutally murdered. And sitting on that reality was the purpose of episode 10. However, in this one, episode 11, as Connie locked eyes with Armin, as opposed to having the time to address and process what they had just done, we would pan out to the grander scale of things as behind Connie was the female Titan fighting these military personnel. And listen, the moment I saw the female Titan was not CG, I knew we were in for a banger. For them to make that effort, all things considered, let me know all that I needed to. What in the manga was about like 2 shots or so ended up being a whole display in the anime of these soldiers zipping around as our 2 Titan shifters did their best to brutalize them. From there, we would have yet another major hurdle placed before our group in what was already an exceedingly precarious situation, as the Azumabito engineers would express the time frame for flying boat maintenance to be an entire day, with half a day being the absolute best case scenario. What was obviously time that these guys absolutely did not possess. There was just no way that they would be able to manage to successfully repel their enemies for that long. Not to mention the speeds to which Eren's stampede of colossal titans were able to move. As Hange would further discern that in about 4 days' time, the monstrosities would have already trampled the entirety of the continent. And even in the event that they successfully managed to get moving in half a day's time somehow, they would be too late to say the likes of Libero, which would particularly catch the attention of John, as he would immediately recall partying with one of their citizens alongside Connie during their undercover exploration of the outside world. Now, the visuals provided for this in the anime were actually different from those in the manga, but regardless, the very same emotions are conveyed, so it's all good. Just a less busy shot, I suppose. And to make matters worse, they did not even know Eren's precise location, which would cause them to sacrifice even more time for the sake of finding him. From which point, Kiyomi would propose an especially dangerous alternative plan, as apparently there is an Azumabito hangar to the south that would make servicing the flying boat possible, while also maintaining a relatively tight proximity to the rumbling, which was on account of the fact that its location, Odisha, was on the verge of being destroyed by the rumbling itself. Now, interestingly enough, in the anime, they provide these guys with an actual map to plan things out, which, considering the ongoing conflict, I can't say makes the most sense in the world, but it is fine either way. But despite the danger, it wasn't as if they had a whole lot of options, and with that, they had their plan, and it simply came down to execution, as they would go on to let the others know. Now, the Titan action we received in this one was amazing. However, it should be noted that when Mikasa lets Annie know about their new plan, she does not object. Yet in the manga, internally at least, Annie does question if they will be able to defeat Eren by taking such a course of action. She would furthermore wonder if they would be able to get to Libero in time, where her father is. And I guess it is a bit unfortunate that this did not make it into the anime version, as we have to remember that Annie's personal stakes in this fight are entirely based on her father's survival. Yet, as previously expressed by Hange, Libero was certainly in a whole lot of danger at the moment, and so any major mishap in their timing could cost Annie her entire reason for moving forward at all. But anyways, as the Azumabito mechanics made their way out and towards the boat, Flock and his men would take notice and begin to redirect their attention, as without the Azumabito, those traitors would have no hope of stopping Eren, from which point Mikasa and Hange would pull up and absolutely put in that work. I feel like over the course of the series, Titan shifters and their importance have largely overshadowed many other things we especially enjoyed about Attack on Titan, and that includes the ODM gear. These guys move like exceedingly lethal versions of Spider-Man out here, and it is so fun to watch. They are really nice with it, and that is a reality I feel we have deviated quite a bit from, so it is always such a pleasure to observe. Now, Flock, for as sinister and deranged as he may be, is actually a very talented commander. He is a rather brilliant tactician and political force. He has successfully read his opponents with 100% accuracy thus far, and this time would be no different as he realized the objective of the Azumabito. And Reiner would come to their aid in transit by way of his hardened exterior acting as a shield from enemy gunfire, but boy would they let this man have it with their thunder spears. These things are most definitely the Armored Titan's least favorite invention, as since their creation, that hardened exterior of his just has not been the same. The female Titan would end up being disregarded for a moment for the sake of taking out the Azumabito, which would actually cost Annie her arm. Now the wear and tear in this battle is definitely beginning to show, and again, Reiner would get a face full of thunder spears, and despite being so terribly ruined by them, at the very least the durability of his form is pretty impressive considering just how many of them directly hit. From which point Annie would have to continue using the guy as a shield, and they just kept blasting this man. Floch would rally his troops, and these guys were certainly scared, but to this Floch would propose to them a fear greater than death, as Eren's failure with the rumbling would invoke the world's wrath upon all that they hold near and dear. Like I said, this guy is good. I've seen people clown him in comparison to Commander Erwin, which is of course all jokes, but even if he is not on Erwin's level, like a sprained ankle, Floch ain't nothing to play with. Now things were not looking so hot for Reiner and Annie until Falco would feel the need to enter the fray on account of him now being the new Jaw Titan. Pieck would express that she would join the fight once they'd all make it to the ship, and furthermore let it be known that the first transformation never goes well, which we know to be the case on account of Eren's first transformation. But despite this warning, Falco would still run off by his lonesome, from which point they would all group up with Magath and an injured Armin, just as Connie would make his way elsewhere. Now at this point, the enemy reinforcements were on the way by train, much to the dismay of Hange, as their group would be wiped out should they arrive. As just then the whole thing would suddenly be victim to a massive explosion, the cause of which would be unknown to our various characters. But damn, to do something like that most definitely required a whole lot of resolve and certainty in such a case. All the while Falco was in the midst of stabbing himself with a nail he had found for the sake of invoking a transformation, but had yet to successfully do so. But man, oh man, is it a good thing he did not just then, as John pulled up on him. But things were really bad for Reiner and Annie. They could not move, and the female Titan had lost its head, blinding her. But when it came time for the Jaegerists to finish them off, Connie pulled up like a G, going harder than he ever has before. He would lay these boys out in the craziest fashion possible, but he was not alone. The whole gang was over here spilling blood. To hesitate was to die, and they were not ready to die just yet. And now, having dropped off the others, the Card Titan would enter the fray as well. Things were not looking so good for Floch and his troops, but they could not waver either. They would do their best to take down the Card Titan, and really had me thinking I was actually watching a Transformers movie for real at this point. And on that note, I had this conversation recently, but I'm curious if you guys would agree that Attack on Titan is a mecha anime, where instead of high-tech suits like Gundam, they've got giant flesh suits. And if so, is Attack on Titan the most popular mecha anime right now? Let us know. But oh my goodness, it was time for a new Titan shifter to rise. And listen, this thing, the new Jaw Titan, goes so much harder than it did in the manga. This thing is absurdly cool and easily one of the coolest looking Titans ever. If you said it is the best, I might just have to agree with you. It seems as though on account of his chimera-like animalistic features, the spinal fluid of Zeke may have meddled with the appearance of Falco's Jaw Titan, making it somewhat of a hybrid between the Jaw and Beast Titans. And this thing immediately put in that work. Its appearance made all the difference. He was going berserk. And if you are a Berserk fan, that faceplate of his might just make that even more accurate. But yo, for as cool as Falco's Titan is, remember what I said before. Do not be so distracted that you overlook the greatness of the ODM gear. And that man Floch is an absolute legend. This battle sequence from him was unreal. Are you kidding me? He got past the new Jaw Titan, repelled and knocked back the commander of the scouts, evaded the Card Titan, and then blasted her at close range with a Thunder Spear. And after all that, he was ready to blast a hole in the hull of their ship. This man was about to end it all for them by his lonesome, the unsung hero of Eldia. Or at least he would be. If Gabi did not pull up with the stick, somebody keep this girl away from the trigger. I know we all hated her early on, but yo, Gabi is really built different. Gabi is the type of shooter to keep Steph Curry practicing in the gym. But yeah, with their commander gone, it was over for these Jaegerist boys. And oh my goodness, oh my word, Mikasa is not from this world. She's gotta be from another anime entirely. She is an actual lethal weapon, like the way Mikasa washed these fools is how I'm trying to move an Elden Ring. She is a whole menace to society, and Mappa really showed out. out because they did not do this in the manga at all. She had these fools running for their lives. But despite the battle being in their favor at this point and virtually complete, Falco was pulling an Incredible Hulk and going insane. The Card Titan would try to stop him, but Falco was not having it. And if they took any longer to stop this man, he would have the powers of the Card Titan too. But thankfully, it would not take much for General Magath to remove Falco from the Titan body, from which point he would console him and congratulate him on a job well done, and after handing him off, would leave the others. Now, in making his way back, he would catch the attention of some remaining Jaegerists, but would be assisted by their mysterious benefactor who had taken care of the enemy reinforcements previously. It was that man Shadis. And the reason Magath did not join the others was because of the nearby Marleyan cruiser, which if given the opportunity would have the speed to catch up to the others and sink their ship, so he needed to deal with it. From there, we would have a touching conversation between these two characters of a similar sort. I don't think I ever expected Shadis to have such a meaningful end as he ended up having here, but damn, gotta respect the OG. We would then hear the final sentiments of Magath, which would speak of his sin regarding the command of child soldiers, and that now he was fighting for a world in which they could all lead normal lives. For as much as he had been guided and blinded by his culture, and the fact of theirs being that of Eldian origins, at the end of the day, they were humans and he could not help but grow care for them on account of their in-depth proximity over the years, which was a very touching and emotional end to such a savage episode. They won, but at what cost? Now, in regards to what we had addressed previously about Annie's reason for fighting, it would be admitted to her by Hange that they could not save Libero from the rumbling, which would drop Annie to her knees as she would question her purpose in remaining anymore. But Hange would express the understanding of the late General Magath. He knew Libera and Marley would not survive the rumbling, but he gave his life to save as many people as possible, even if they happened to be nameless strangers. Annie at this point was broken. She began to cry and asked Mikasa if she could kill Eren. She'd question if Mikasa would be able to sit back and watch her attempt to do so. She would furthermore denounce any desire to fight the rest of them anymore. She didn't even want to fight Eren. This scene was so much more emotional in the anime than it was in the manga, and I love it. I really don't think this scene resonated with me much at all previously, but wow, good job Mappa. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.